We start with Qantas and Jetstar announcing 90% of their international capacity will be slashed, along with 60% of domestic services, as the coronavirus pandemic bites hard on the global airline industry. For the latest, we're joined this morning by Nine's Damien Ryan in the studio. Damo, this is tough. How do you keep 30,000 workers on the books at Qantas if they're going to cut like this?
Well, that's what they're trying to do now, trying to assess that. Taking 90% of your aircraft offline, that's equivalent to 150 aeroplanes that are no longer flying at the moment. I suspect the job now for Qantas is to work out, of those 30,000 people, how many of those 30,000 people, potentially 20,000 people, will be asked to take unpaid leave until at least the end of May. This is obviously the fallout from the decision to literally lock down our borders. You know, people are arriving in Australia and realising you've got to face 2 weeks quarantine. They're not coming here. No one is flying. And the spin-off, and domestically too, it's obviously hurting the domestic airline incredibly. You know, 60% have been cut there. So extraordinary times, but these are extraordinary times. I mean, Qantas has never seen anything like this. It's trading at the moment. A month ago it was $6.50. It's looking at $2.90. The Rex Airlines, regional airlines, which services many small communities around this country, they were placed in a trading halt today. So things are very, very serious. There is, people are saying, aviation experts around the world are saying there are many airlines that will go bankrupt before the end of May. As for Qantas, we spoke to Peter Harbison today. He's an aviation expert. He says, look, this is going to hurt Qantas, but he's pretty confident they'll survive.
It's got a highly dominant position in the domestic market, which will almost certainly come back in the next few months. It's got a government which is supportive and will undoubtedly intervene to at least to make sure that that there is continuity of service anyway. It's too important to the Australian economy not to have it operating.
So, Damo, if you have a booking with Qantas at the moment, in sometime in the next couple of months, because this is through till the end of May, well, what do you do? Well,
you go online, basically. You don't call best to go online and just say, look, I want to either cancel my flight. Well, they'll give you a voucher, which will be which will run for a year. If you want to cancel your flight and get your money back, well, you're going to have to pay a fee, which you'd normally have to do anyway if you wanted to do that. That's where we're at the moment. Other airlines around the world, Air New Zealand, 85%.
Qantas isn't the only one, is it?
Oh, no.
This is everyone.
Virgin Australia at the moment, we've reached out to them, nothing yet. They've already announced some cutbacks the other day, but Virgin Atlantic, 85% of aircraft gone.
Wow.
Staff there will be asked to take 2 months' leave. Scandinavian Airlines, basically all but grounded, and 10,000 staff laid off. And apparently we're only at the beginning of this medical emergency. So it's having extraordinary impact across the board, but particularly the airline industry. No one flying, so there'll be no planes in the air.
Extraordinary announcement this morning. Okay, Damo, thank you. Well, amazingly, the Australian share market has opened in the black, defying expectations to be up almost 1.5% in early trade, fighting back after one of the worst days in ASX history. The major supermarkets, Woolworths and Coles, up by almost 3% each. We'll go to Canberra now, and federal politics reporter Fiona Whelan. Fee, good morning. A raft of new measures to protect Australians are on the way, so what can we expect?
Well, Davina, this is all about protecting the economy, and we're expecting an announcement on this in the days ahead. The government will have some new measures that it wants to get through Parliament next week. Now, the Finance Minister, Matthias Cormann, says they're looking at some significant options that they haven't considered before. We understand further cash payments for households aren't on the table at this stage. Now, just days ago, the government announced a $17.5 billion stimulus package. So these new measures will be an extension of that package. The Reserve Bank is also planning to step in again. It's going to make an announcement on Thursday. Economists are expecting an emergency rate cut. And of course, all of this follows the new restrictions announced in recent days on large-scale events and travel. Let's hear from the Finance Minister.
Some sectors in our economy are going to be very severely impacted. Indeed, businesses will close and Australians will lose their jobs.
In the global financial crisis, just over a decade ago, unemployment went up 200,000 people in a year. This might be 100,000, which is terrible. But we've seen bigger damage in terms of the economy and not that long ago.
Now, the government is also trying to address supply shortages. It's asking manufacturers to have a go at making new products such as hand sanitisers and personal protective equipment. This actually follows a move by French label Louis Vuitton, which has started making hand sanitisers in France. Now, 9 News revealed this morning the government is close to reaching an agreement with a Victorian manufacturer to produce face masks, and we understand it could support the plan with extra money for machinery or extra staff. Davina?
Fiona Willen in Canberra, thank you. Well, there has been a major scientific breakthrough in the fight against COVID-19 in Melbourne. Let's go straight to Brett McLeod. Brett, good morning. What have researchers found?
Well, this is some encouraging news we needed, Davina. At the Doherty Institute, the first place outside of China to isolate the coronavirus, they've now done some testing on what effect it has on the body. They started doing this almost as soon as they realised there was a problem. There was a woman who was from Wuhan in China who came to Melbourne and tested positive for COVID-19. What they found was that for most healthy people, the body responds to it within 3 days, produces antibodies similar to that used in the flu. Even though this is a new virus, that's a good bit of news because it shows most bodies can handle this fairly quickly. Here's a couple of the researchers talking about their discovery.
Specific cell populations that we've seen emerging in the patient blood before the patient recovered. Yes, we see similar populations in influenza-infected patients. Knowing that patients can mount antibody responses is important for the vaccine development, as the majority of the vaccines, they are based on antibody responses.
So that can help with vaccine development and also determining which patients are most likely to have the most severe effects. So that could lead to more targeted therapy for those who really need it. This is a really good breakthrough. We'll stress, though, it's no indicator that any vaccine is going to be available anytime soon, but it does allow much more targeted testing for vaccines to hopefully speed up the process before they're available. In the meantime, we had 23 new cases of coronavirus confirmed in Victoria overnight. That's a big jump on the previous day of 14, so it is going up exponentially, as was predicted. We've had more closures too. The Arts Centre is now closed, so is Rod Laver Arena, the State Library, many other places in Victoria closed for the time being, and school closures may be the next to follow. That's being discussed now. Davina?
Brett, thank you. Speaking of school closures, let's go to Alex Heinke in Queensland, where coronavirus is starting to impact the education system. Some schools have already shut their doors.
Well, it's now Queensland schools that are taking body blows from the coronavirus. Teachers, parents and students in a state of limbo this morning. Some schools either shut or partly closed. Where I am right now, St Peter's Lutheran College, a prestigious private school in Brisbane, has informed all students except seniors to take the day off. This isn't for students, this is for teachers, so they can retrain in online learning in the event that the school is shut down completely. Now, All Saints Anglican School on the Gold Coast has become the first school in Queensland to shut down entirely from Friday, while 3 teachers and 2 students at Pine Rivers State High School are now in isolation. The Education Minister is meeting this morning, deciding the fate of state schools, but the advice from our Chief Medical Officer here in Queensland is to keep them open for now. 2 reasons: because closures could last for months and the impact on parents could be significant. Now, as you can imagine, this is a very fluid situation at the moment, and just like most things impacted by a coronavirus, could be changing again within several hours.
And in New South Wales, parents are being urged to use discretion before deciding whether to send their children to school over the coming days. The Teachers Federation is calling on the Department of Health to provide better access to cleaning supplies to help school campuses clean amid the outbreak. We do have breaking news now, and this morning there are 39 new coronavirus cases in New South Wales. That brings the state total to 210. Meanwhile, funding will be pumped into the economy as the coronavirus bites hard. Premier Gladys Berejiklian today announcing a $2.3 billion stimulus package, including $700 million to boost healthcare, to ramp up coronavirus testing, increasing intensive care capacity and setting up respiratory clinics.
A huge component of this, $700 million, will go directly towards the health system. A huge boost to health in New South Wales, which will be effective immediately, which will be for the next 6 months to make sure health has all the resources it needs to purchase more equipment, to put on additional staff and to take care of every patient that comes through during this period. We also appreciate that given the extra measures of social distancing and social isolation, the impact this is having on our community, and that's why the package today includes a huge component to relieve small businesses and medium-sized businesses of payroll tax, but to also ensure that government does its bit in employing more people in certain areas during this difficult time, whether it's extra cleaning staff, whether it's bringing on extra projects, especially in regional New South Wales that are already shovel ready. And this is what is really important to us. Firstly, saving lives, keeping the community safe, but also trying to make sure we do everything we can to create jobs and save jobs.
To that breaking news this morning, 39 new cases in New South Wales, taking the total in the state to 210. And hospitals across South Australia are ramping up their efforts to fight the spread of the virus. Nine's Rory McLaren joins us from Mount Barker in the Adelaide Hills. Rory, a new testing clinic has been opened there.
It has, Davina. A steady stream of patients have been using this centre since its doors opened. Now, this is the first of the regional coronavirus testing clinics which have been instrumental in trying to diagnose the illness in our state. As of this morning, there are 30 confirmed cases in SA. Now, we saw our biggest surge in new cases yesterday with 10 additional people diagnosed. Premier Stephen Marshall spoke a short time ago about the situation here, in particular about the opening of this new clinic.
This is part of our plan to roll out these testing facilities across South Australia. As you'd be more than aware, we now have them at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, the Lower McEwen Hospital, Flinders Medical Centre, the Women's and Children's Hospital, and a drive-through facility at the REPAT. As part of our plan, we'll be rolling these out as and when they're required.
Like in other states, the virus is impacting schools here. Unley, one of the state's biggest public high schools, has shut down following the positive test of a staff member. As we go to air, cleaning is underway there. It comes with the closure of the nearby Scotch College following the positive test of a student yesterday, while Sacred Heart College in Adelaide Southwest reopens today after the positive test of a student. He contracted the virus from contact with a relative. The message, though, from Premier Stephen Marshall at this point in time is for children to continue to go to school.